What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Today we are going to be modifying our Rx7 Turbo 2 transmission, and by modification I mean we are going to be shortening the shifter linkage. So we're going to actually be moving the shifter about 4 inches forward on the shifter, or the location for it. It'll be about 4 inches further than before, and the reason we are doing that is because I'm swapping a Miata motor into my Rx7, and if you look, I've clearanced the firewall back here and down in here to allow us to shove the motor back far enough to be behind the steering rack, and so the oil pan is like level with it. And so the reason we need to modify our shifter is otherwise my shifter is going to be about 4 inches back, which is not a very comfortable position, so I want to try to get it as close to the OEM location as possible, and so that my shifting isn't awkward or in an awkward location. So in order to do this, you take this piece off of your transmission, which is the tail shaft, or the back portion of it, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be shortening all of this stuff right here about 4 inches, and by 4 inches I mean basically these two bolts are going to end up bolting up back here, and we're just going to slice all this stuff off and just kind of move it forward. So in order to get this piece off your transmission, it's pretty straightforward and simple. I think there's about 6, 7, or 8 bolts that just run around the ring, and it should separate real easily. Mine just came apart real quick, no big deal. Next up, we are going to look at this, and we are gonna remove this plate. There's a pin inside here that we need to remove, so let's get to that. And then once that's done, we're gonna remove these 4 bolts, and all of this assembly should come apart. Next up, there's a little pin in here, which I've already started pushing through. Basically, just find a punch or a screwdriver or something that's just the right size to get on that, and you basically just take a hammer, punch it through, and that should be all you need to release the rod. We're going to remove these 4 bolts, which should allow this piece to come off, and there's this rod that's sitting here, and that should come out. From my understanding, this rod is generally pretty stuck in here, and we might booger this thing up getting it out, but I guess it's going to be okay because we got to do it. So, fingers crossed we don't mess things up. Wherever my lens is, fingers crossed we don't mess things up. To explain this for the 3rd time, now that I've had to reformat my memory card, we just got this thing torn apart. There are all the pieces out of it that we need. So we got the rod, we got the sleeve for the rod, and we have basically the bracket for it, because that's really all this does. So we need to measure the distance from the center of this hole to the center of this hole, or the other side, doesn't really matter, to figure out how much we need to cut off each of these 2 pieces. To do that, I'm using a micrometer. If you have one, these are cheap from Harbor Freight, and they work pretty well. So this is, if I remember right, about 4.07 inches, because this is my 3rd time doing this now. So keep going. There's 4.06. Anyway, so what we're going to do now with this measurement is we're going to take 4.06 inches off of this, 4.06 inches off of this, and we're going to drill a hole 4.06 inches back from the hole that's in this, and make sure it's still in line. And on this plate, we're just going to cut everything behind this bolt off. So we want to keep this piece together, and we're going to cut this off. And what that's going to do is it's going to, and when we reassemble this, we're going to bolt this side to where this normally bolts. And what that's going to do for us is that's going to move our shifter about 4 inches forward. Well, it's going to move 4.06 inches forward, or 7 inches, or whatever forward. So I'm going to go ahead and get started cutting everything, and we're going to throw you guys on a tripod and get to work. rinse and repeat a bunch more times. Just went ahead and got everything cut off. That means this guy, this little piece inside of it, chopped that one off too. I did remove it. When we do, and we're about to reinstall, and then I chopped this piece, which is the rod that goes inside that. It goes like this. And the other thing you have to do is you have to drill another hole for this. So when I did that, I ended up using this piece, and I just slid it back on the pipe, and I measured down the 4.06 inches that we talked about, stuck the caliper in there, made sure it was centered, and I made sure it was centered with, or like in line with the other hole, because don't get these out of line, and if you know, get this too high or too low, it may be really hard to put the pin back in it. I used this as like a guide and then center punched it twice, and then ended up using a drill press to get it through. You can use a normal hand drill. I just happen to have one, so it makes my life just a little bit easier because I can never seem to make cuts straight. Anyway, next steps is just reassembly, which is the reverse process, only I'm going to throw a little extra silicone on it, and I think we have to do some trimming and another couple of slight modifications to this. So if memory serves, we have to pull both these pins out, which these are both dowel pins. They should just come out with a pair of pliers, and the reason you have to do this is because one of them is off-center. The point of no going back is we got to cut this little ear off, and the reason for that is there's this little plug thing right here on the bottom, and that kind of runs into it when you line it up here. So here it is in the holes, and it doesn't quite sit flat. So I'm gonna go grind that off, and then we'll be back for reassembly. Now that we got the ear cut off of this, the pins removed from these, and everything else shaved down to the proper size, we can go ahead and start reassembly. So first things first, we're gonna throw this guy back in, like so. Once you get that tab trimmed off, you can then reassemble everything, which you have to actually trim off quite a bit. I had to do it twice. So the first time didn't quite fit, but you can see about how much I trimmed off, basically the whole ear. And then once you do that, reassembly is basically the same thing, the way it came back apart, or the way it came apart the first time. Reassembly for this thing is basically the same process to taking it apart. So put your casing and dust tube in, and then slide your rod in, and then put the pin in, which I drilled my hole a little bit too small, so this pin didn't really want to go in, so I think it's most of the way in, but it's basically stuck, so I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think it's going to clear the face just fine, or the cover plate that sits here. I'll probably throw a little bit of RTV around this seal, and then throw a little bit of silicone on there. I'm just going to throw the plate on for now, and then silicone this later, because I don't have silicone at the moment. And I will have to go pick up some at a later time, and I'm probably going to pull my motor in and out like 3 or 4 more times before it's actually permanently mounted. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. I am going to go ahead and in another video, go ahead and reattach this tail shaft to the end of the transmission, and go ahead and go back to mocking it up and get hopefully some motor mounts built. So that's going to be it. See you guys next time. Peace.